What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. This is my DraftKings MMA picks video for UFC 308. We have Ilia Topuria going against Max Holloway. And yeah, looking forward to the card. We got an early start time and really just a stacked card from top to bottom, 13 fight slate. Yeah, should be a good one for sure. So yeah, looking forward to breaking it down. Before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment down below. All three of those things go a very long way. If you guys do want to support me more, if you guys want extra content, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my fighter stats, targets, projections, ownership projections, rankings, prize picks content, DFS article, and much more on there. Lineup optimizer, all that good stuff on dfsbythenumbers.com. I do want to shout out the sponsor of the show, and that is Prize Picks. Check out Prize Picks using that code at DFSBTN, and if you do so, you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Whether you win or lose, you'll get $50 into your Prize Picks account. So check it out, free $50. Yeah, go to Prize Picks, use that code there. All right. With all that out of the way, I say we get into it here, and we're going to start with these fight doesn't go to decision lines. And yeah, I think we mostly get decisions on this card, but I think, yeah, I'd say I think all four of these fights probably should finish inside the distance one way or another. But we'll start with Kennedy Nzechukwu going against Chris Barnett. And yeah, for me, I mean, this is one of those spots where I just feel like Kennedy should go out there and win, but I feel like I've said that a lot with Kennedy Nzechukwu, like he should go out there and win this fight. But, you know, he's kind of one of those guys that's just very inconsistent. You know, sometimes he'll go out there look like $1 million, and sometimes he'll go out there and look like the worst fighter on the roster. So if he does go out there and look like the worst fighter on the roster, you know, Chris Barnett then would have a chance to win this fight. So I think Kennedy's very expensive, $7,900. I think he should go out there and make this look very easy, but, you know, Chris Barnett at $6,500, I think he's worth like a little bit of a dart throw this week. Next, we have a fight that actually was, I think, originally supposed to be the first or second fight of the card. They ended up moving this fight to the featured prelim, and I think I know why. Like, these guys are both finishers. 25 of these guys combined fights have finished under 1.5 rounds, and for me, this is one of those fights where I'm probably going to go, you know, almost 50-50 split on it. Maybe, you know, a little bit of a lean towards Cerqueira here at 8,000 just because he's cheaper and he, in theory, has some grappling upside. But I think somebody's getting served here probably within these first 7.5 minutes. Aslan has a ton of power. Cerqueira has a ton of power, but Cerqueira also has a BJJ black belt, and we've seen Aslan submitted before. So, yeah, I think somebody's getting served here, and I think it's a great fight to target, especially at these price tags right in that mid-range. Next, we have the co-main event. We have Khamzat Chimaev going against Robert Whittaker. Another phenomenal fight to target. You know, typically, you know, sometimes I don't mind getting away from like the main event or the co-main event because it's going to be, you know, heavily owned. But it's just hard for me to not play this fight, to be honest, just because Khamzat Chimaev at 8,700. If he's winning this fight, you got to imagine it's in the first round and a half, 2 rounds. And if he wins the fight and finishes the fight, he's going to absolutely pay off this price tag, no doubt about it. If he's not able to get the finish within the first round and a half, 2 rounds, then that makes Robert Whittaker very live to not only win the fight, but put up a ton of points across 5 rounds, or maybe even getting a late finish in his own right. So I love this fight from a DraftKings perspective. Another fight where I do slightly lean Khamzat, but I'm getting some like bad vibes with Khamzat this week. I don't know what it's about. Like it feels a little bit different this week. But yeah, I would make sure to have just, you know, both sides here for sure. Khamzat early, Robert Whittaker late by decision. Whoever wins, I think, scores a ton. And then we got Abus Magomedov going against Bruno Ferreira. Yeah, a fight that I do think should probably finish inside the distance. Bruno Ferreira, 13 fights, has actually never been over 1.5 rounds. I think that actually could potentially change here, but yeah, I think Bruno Ferreira, if he's winning this fight, it's probably a first-round knockout. This guy has a ton of power. He's going to go after it, but I feel like if this fight does get extended, it's going to favor Abus Magomedov. I also think Abus has some sneaky wrestling upside as well. We've seen him go to the wrestling in his last fight. I think that could be on the table here. I think Abus's cardio is not great, but I think it's better than Bruno's, so I'm personally liking Abus Magomedov quite a bit, but if you're looking for somebody with, you know, first-round knockout upside, Bruno Ferreira is your guy to target. Let's get to the core plays here. We got My Titty Back, Oral Buy, sitting at 9,100. I like My Titty Back this week just because I like this fight in general, to be honest. I think this fight's just going to be a chaotic scramble fest type fight where, you know, both guys are going to get a ton of takedowns. We're going to see some reversals. We're going to see some control time. But I got to lean Oral Buy here, and here's why. Like, we see Rebecki just go out there, look really good early, but slow down. tremendously as the fight goes on. We saw him slow down really bad in the Fiore fight, but Fiore was not able to do anything about it because he came in there on short notice and he's not that great. We saw him slow down a lot against Carlos Diego Ferreira, and we saw Ferreira take advantage of that and finish him late. So I can kind of see the same thing happening here where, yeah, it's very competitive early, but as the fight goes on, Orobai just start to take over more and more and wins a decision or potentially even gets a late finish. But I think whoever wins this fight is going to score a ton, but I'm personally liking my titty back here at 9,100. Khamzat Chimaev, 8,700. I was a lot more confident on Chimaev like earlier in the week, but like I said, as the weeks went on, it's like I feel like something's off with Khamzat. But with that said, like I think if he's winning this fight, it's still going to be in the first round and a half. He's taking down Whitaker. He's getting the back and either choking him out or maybe even knocking him out on the feet. We saw Whitaker knocked out before in the past by Adesanya. We saw him get knocked out by Dricus. Yeah, I think Khamzat has like a 7.5 to 10 minute window here to finish the fight. If it does get into the third round, that's when I will start to worry about Khamzat. We have seen him fight into a third round before, but we've never seen him into a fourth or a fifth, and that could definitely be trouble there. But yeah, I like Khamzat, the first to second round finish upside, but like I said, I've been getting some really weird vibes with Khamzat this week. Then we got Abus Magomedov, 8,400, who we talked about a little bit. I like Abus here. I mean, he is live to get knocked out in the early going. He has been knocked out before by Sean Strickland, and outside the UFC, he got knocked out in the first round as well. But I just think he has a lot more ways to win this fight. I think he has the wrestling upside, the cardio upside. I just think he's better everywhere. I even think he's the better striker, but Ferreira does have a ton of power, and that's kind of the worry there. But outside of that, I think Abus should roll here and put up a really good score along the way at a very, very solid price tag, I think, at 8,400. And then we got Max Holloway, 7,400. Anytime Max Holloway is on the slate, I like to put him into a ton of my lineups. This guy has one of the highest ceilings in the entire UFC, landing over 7 significant strikes per minute, has 25 minutes to work with. And yeah, I guess the worry here would be him potentially getting knocked out early on by Topuria, but I do trust in the chin of Holloway. I trust in the durability. He's never been knocked out yet. I don't think that time comes this Saturday, and if not, if this fight does get extended and goes the distance, I think we're looking at a very close fight, and I think we're looking at a very live dog, and even in a loss, if he goes 25 minutes, he's paying off this price tag, I think, just with the amount of volume this guy throws. So I like Holloway, and I like him at this price tag especially. Moving on to the GPP plays here, we got Kennedy Nzechukwu. Very expensive this week. But I had no problem getting him into some lineups here just because I think there's a lot of very live dogs, very good dogs as well, that we'll talk about shortly. So I really had no problem fitting him in, but I guess the worry here is, like I said earlier, this guy's really hit or miss, but he would have to really miss to lose this fight, I think. I just think he's going to be towering over Barnett. I think he's just so much better wherever the fight goes. I think he has wrestling upside as well. So this should be Kennedy. Should be Kennedy all day, but he's pulled stunts in the past. So I'd be kind of wary, going all in on him, especially how expensive he is. But, I mean, he should go out there and make this look easy. Ismail Nardiev, 8,300. I don't mind some Nardiev here. Going against Bruno Silva early on in this card. I think it's like the second or third fight on the card here. But I like Nardiev here, 8,300. I think he has some sneaky wrestling upside, maybe even some submission upside as well. I like the volume that he brings to the table on the feet. Bruno Silva just looks like a shell of himself. I think the Alex Pereira fight against Bruno Silva just took a lot out of Silva. And since then, De Silva's not been looking the best. I think Nardiev's younger. He's a little bit chinny, for sure. He could potentially get knocked out early, but I just think he has a lot more ways to win this fight at 8,300. I don't mind some Nardiev. Topuria, 8,700. Obviously, we can't... Or 8,800, my bad. Let me fix that. Typo. Yeah, 8,800. Obviously, we cannot ignore Topuria here. I mean, this guy has a ton of power. He's undefeated. He's been looking phenomenal. He has all the wrestling upside here. BJJ black belt, very dangerous wherever the fight goes. I personally do like the Max side here, but yeah, maybe Topuria is the first one to knock out Max Holloway. A lot of people are picking him to do so, and if he does that, yeah, he's paying off this price tag. So I will be having some Topuria. I do like Holloway, especially with the price savings, but I'm not ignoring Topuria this week. Next, we got Ibo Aslan, 8,200. I think this is just a fight where It's hard to really pick a winner, but what I do think is happening is I think we do get a finish here. I think somebody's getting served. I believe, Aslan has a 100% finish rate. Cerqueira has a 91% finish rate. So these guys are both finishers, both very dangerous on the feet. Cerqueira is dangerous on the mat, but yeah, Aslan, he could win by knockout, and it could be in the first round as well. I think all but one of his wins do come in the first round and a half. So I don't mind some Aslan 8,200, but it's not something to be confident in. I would play both sides of this fight. Moving on to the live dogs, I think there's a bunch of live dogs this week. Starting with Armen Petrosyan, 7,600. I think this is the closest fight on the card, in my opinion. I think Petrosyan just has a ton of volume, really good striking in his own right. I think the striking between these two is actually going to be a lot closer than people think. And then on top of that, Petrosyan has all the wrestling upside in this matchup. Petrosyan has actually landed a takedown before in the UFC, and you look at his record, it's like he's fighting all grapplers for the most part, right? And this is a spot where I feel like he can kind of flip the script and maybe go for takedowns in his own right. I think he might have it in his back pocket, and if he does that, he could look like a phenomenal underdog at 7,600 with the volume on the feet, and then with the wrestling upside as well. So I think Petrosyan's really live here. I think worst case scenario, this looks like a 50-50 fight. So at 7,600, it's a no-brainer for me. Robert Whittaker, 7,500. Yeah, I don't mind Whittaker whatsoever, especially with Hamzat being weird this week. Yes, 7,500, very cheap. If he survives the first round and a half, 2 rounds, we're going to be loving Robert Whittaker at 7,500. So it's a fight that I'm going to be very, very heavily exposed to. I'm looking at it as Chimaev early or Robert Whittaker late or by decision. And yeah, if you play Whittaker, you're certainly going to be sweating in the first round and a half. He's probably going to get put into a ton of bad spots. But if he is able to survive, Whittaker can put up one of the best scores on the entire card as an underdog with 5 rounds to work with. So I don't mind some Whittaker at 7,500. Rafael Cerqueira, 8,000. Yeah, I don't mind some Cerqueira here. I have a decent amount of them and a decent amount of this fight in general. Like I said, I think it finishes. He's a BJJ black belt. In theory, if he gets the fight down to the mat, he's going to have just an astronomical advantage. And even on the feet, he does have some power in his own right. I think somebody's probably getting sparked here in the first round, so I don't mind some Cerqueira at 8,000. And then Bruno Ferreira, 7,800. Knockout chance in the first round, puncher's chance in the first round, if you will. I hope it doesn't happen, but because I'm going to be very high on Magomedov, but that's what he's been doing. He went out there, knocked out Gregory Rodriguez, knocked out Phil Hawes, knocked out Dustin Solsfist, and all on the first round. So I think if Ferreira's winning this fight, his win condition is literally a first round knockout. He has a 100% finish rate, and that can't be ignored. Moving on to the pump plays, we got Alexander Rakic, 6,800. I think it's a very close fight. I don't think this fight scores a ton, I'll say that. So if Rakic does win, I could see him literally scoring 50 points, something just terrible, but I think he's live. I think he's live to win the fight. I think it's live to be a very, very close and competitive fight. I don't think he finishes Ankalaev, but yeah, I think at the very least this goes to decision. I don't hate a shot on Rakic, just in terms of maybe getting a very, very cheap winner this week. And then Chris Barnett, 6,500, definitely more of a dart throw here. I don't think he wins, but Kennedy's dropped the ball, and he'll have to really drop the ball here, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll see. Chris Barnett, 6,500. If he's winning, it's probably by knockout, and he probably breaks the slate, so I want to have a little bit of exposure to him. And then the fade is going to be Magomed Ankalaev, 9,400. Yeah, I mean, outside of him maybe knocking out Rakic early on, which I don't think he does, to be honest. I think this fight goes 15. I think it's very slow paced. Maybe he can, hit a takedown or two. I think Ankalaev is a pretty solid fade this week overall. But yeah, guys, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys could, on your way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. DraftKings articles out, lineup optimizers all ready to go. I'm going to be looking to get a prize picks play out as well for this week. So yeah, best of luck, everybody. UFC 308 should be a fun card, early card. Looking forward to that, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.